Hey, this is Chris Egert, 5 Eyewitness News, and for Jason DeRusha today. I introduced the idea before we went to break that you probably heard it. If you have a millennial in your life, I know you've heard it. You've probably read an article about it. I'm sure you've seen something online about it. The millennials believe they will never be able to afford a house. I'm not saying all of them. Many of them do. Are there some really crappy economic factors happening in the world right now? Absolutely. There's a Twin Cities realtor who took a hot take. He went right at the millennials. And he said, you know what? Let's talk about this a little bit more. Graham Smith is here. Hello, Graham.
Oh, thank you.
So you wrote an article.
I did.
You put it on Substack.
I did.
And give us a synopsis.
Basically, the hate mail ensued.
I'm sure it did. Because we know the millennials love their phones.
Oh, my God. Yeah, thanks a lot for having me today.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, so the idea was here that let's talk about this a little bit more. I know what the headlines are, but let's dig a little deeper.
Yeah, you know, as I was digging into the numbers, I thought, well, let's see how different it is, right? And that led me to start doing some math, started doing some calculations, and I picked 1980 as an arbitrary number.
Yep.
Took a peek at that, and the numbers were way different than what everybody was saying. So that led me to take a look at all of the years.
Okay.
And they're way different than everybody said.
So we know the interest rates, the interest rates feel terrible right now.
They do.
But historically...
Yeah, historically, depending on where you measure from, if you go all the way back to 1965, we're looking fantastic. Those long-term interest rate averages are about 8%. But if we go back to 1990, they're about 6.25%, 6.5%, which is exactly where we're at.
So the argument's going to be, well, in what year was that?
Depends on which one we're looking at.
Well,
1980.
Okay,
sure.
So in 1980, a person could probably buy a house, maybe in these parts, for $90,000, $100,000.
So, yeah, let's peel that back a little bit.
Yeah.
So depending on what we're looking at, and let me preface all of this by saying, if you're somebody that is in an economic situation where a house is not, you know, for you.
Absolutely.
I get it.
Absolutely.
If there's challenges, I get it. I totally understand this. But what I'm talking about is the conventional wisdom has been millennials are priced out. There's no hope. This is different than it's been, and it just isn't. If we look at the average price per home from 1965 to now, and we look at what it cost as a percentage of home income, average household income, we are substantially below where we were at between the late 70s and all the way up to 1990. In fact, you're looking at about 25% of your average take-home pay it takes to service a principal and interest loan today for the average loan. In 1980, it was 45%. 45%. It was substantially higher. So that's what led me to start looking at all of these numbers. And as we found, there's ebbs and flows, you know, highs and lows, and we're certainly higher than we were 4, 5, 6 years ago. But as an average, we are not that far off of what is considered to be average. And that is where the entire argument began, and it's where people started to challenge, rightfully so, as they should.
Sure. So you got all kinds of feedback on this.
Totally.
And
yeah.
what were some of the comments?
You don't understand. Nice for you. You've been in. Yeah, I'm a Gen Xer as well.
Yep.
You got to take advantage of low interest rates. You had all of this time to raise. The baby boomers. Everybody talks about the baby boomers,
of course,
as if the world was handed to the baby boomers. They could buy a house for a nickel and a car for a fifth of that, right? So the reality, though, is that when we look at the baby boomers and their time in the market, there's some massive differences as well. For example, if you look back to the 60s to all the way out till about the mid 80s, the average size of a home was about 1,200 square feet. We're sitting at 2,600 square feet as the average size of a home.
That's an important distinction.
We're not comparing apples to apples. Single pane windows versus double. Today's energy standards versus yesteryear. Formica countertops versus quartz. The list goes on, right? But the one bit of it challenge I got from people was it's all about affordability, and it's all about the context of what things cost, because houses were a lot cheaper then. This is true. Don't trust me. Check this out for yourself. If you look back to 1965 and you apply a 5% per year average appreciation rate, you get to exactly where we are right now for prices. And I can't think of any other asset class in the world that appreciates at 5% per year that's considered expensive. If your 401k appreciated at 5% per year,
you'd fire your CPA.
Your financial advisor. You would fire everybody in your corner because you would be massively underproducing and underperforming. And if we even say that 5% might be a little high to historic averages, depending on where you live, fine. We're fractionally higher. This isn't the world is falling, the sky is falling.
Well, and I understand why you wrote the article, to give some people some perspective. And I know that there's probably a lot of millennials who are sitting out because they just think, and they've been convinced too, maybe they didn't really look into the history of it. Maybe they aren't as educated about where things stand. And I know one of the big arguments you're going to hear from them is, well, we're carrying more debt.
It's true.
We paid more to go to college.
It's true.
So what do you say back to that?
I'm going to look over to my associate right now because she knows what I'm going to say, and it's probably going to blow our inbox up. You made that choice to take that debt on. That's not the fault of a house, and that doesn't make the house more expensive. That just makes your debt load unsustainable.
Is this a conversation that should be happening between parents and
100%.
children as they're a high school senior? And they're thinking about the life in front of them, and all they're really thinking about is, God, to be cool to go to school at XYZ.
Absolutely. And you know what? Let me back up a little bit. I say that in that way to be a little bit controversial, to make you think, because it is your choice to do that. Now, if you made that choice, that's okay. If you choose to continue to make that choice, that's okay. Just don't blame the rest of the asset class in the world for that decision. That's a choice you're making, and it might be the right one, it might not. I would say this, though, that is something we should as a society be speaking more about. And I completely understand, to the young folks, you had adults, guidance counselors, parents, loved ones encouraging you to do this. I get it. You're a young person making a big decision with life-changing effects. But in reality, there's plenty of people in this country that are not doing that, not taking on that debt load. It is what it is, you know?
I like another point that you bring up in this article, which is, again, it's going to be a little controversial. The idea that maybe you live in a house that you can afford?
Oh, that's exactly right. I mean, I did this study just last week, or beginning of this week, rather. I drew a 25-mile radius around Minneapolis. There are currently 211 single-family homes priced at or below $250,000 for sale. Okay? People say there's no affordable homes. That's nonsense. And I'm going to go back and share this not as a point of one is better than the other, but you can do this. When I bought my first house, I was literally a bartender. Okay? That was a long time ago. I bartended through college at the U, and I bought a house at a very young age. It was a very small house, 650 square feet. They actually made houses that small. I lived in that house for a period of time, gained equity. We bought another house, lived in that, gained equity. We bought another. My point is that my first house doesn't even look like my current house. You could fit my first house in the garage of my current house, but we're talking 30 years, right? 30 plus years. The idea that we have to move into this house that's going to fit our needs or be a luxury house as the first house, that has never, ever, ever been the norm in this country. Ever. Nobody has ever been the norm. In fact, back in the 60s, 70s, 80s, you'd have a house where 4 kids shared 2 bedrooms, 1 was in the attic, 3 were in the basement, everybody had a job and chipped in, and the 7-year-old smoked, right? But the reality is that right now we're talking about, I want to move in this beautiful neighborhood that's considered to be pretty luxurious. I want hard surface countertops, stainless steel appliances. That might not be realistic for your first house. Maybe there's a stepping stone opportunity for you, and that's why I wanted to look up to see how many single-family homes do we actually have. And I would challenge everybody to go check that out.
So if somebody's sitting on the sidelines and there, is a millennial out there and they're not insulted and they realize what the spirit of this conversation is,
that's
what
right.
would you say to them?
I would say do what you can with what you have when you can. Okay? If you don't have a job that is that you can trust, if you're not sure where you're going to be, that's not the time to buy a home. But if you're into a job where you can afford this, it's relatively reasonable or near what you're paying for rent. Check out what's available in your price range. Make a plan to live there for 5, 7, 10 years. Build some equity. Make that be the stepping stone to the next house. Because I'll tell you this, and this is real data. If you go back to 1975 to 1990, there was an incredible uptick in interest rates. Massive uptick. Okay, unsustainable rates. But housing prices almost tripled during that time frame. If you're waiting for more affordable times, they're not coming.
Well, that's another great point too. You don't know.
That's right. We just don't know. There could be these blips of affordability because it always cycles. Everything does. No market is forever. But the idea that we're going to see some sort of a complete rebalancing, it just hasn't happened throughout history with the exception of a couple of times.
Good conversation, Graham.
Yeah, thanks,
Thank
Chris.
you. How can people find you?
You can check us out at thegrahamsmithteam.com. You can always call us at our office at 612-414-5614, or just look us up online, The Graham Smith Team.
Graham, thank you for stopping by. I hope you catch some fish this weekend.
I will.
All right. It is 3:40.